Do you believe we need to look at Facebook and Google as two services that need proper regulation?
Well, I'm not sure there's kind of one size fits all answer to that question, but I think what you're seeing at European level and beyond is an increasing focus on the power of these companies. And I think you could probably split that power into a few different categories. So you've got your kind of classic distribution power that looks like a media power. So should we hold them responsible for the distribution of things like fake news or of political content? And then you've got the question that I'm looking at today, which is more the data power that they have. And there we already have data protection rules in place. And so the big question is whether, because of the volume of data that certain companies process and the variety of the data that they process, you should be looking at specific obligations for those companies.
One of the words you use there is responsibility. The internet and Facebooks and Googles are being described as part of a great big late modern juggernaut that's just flying out there and nobody has any real control over it. But they've taken control to a large degree of people's lives and their information, their personal information, to such an extent that they're vital. We can't live without them.
Yeah, and it's exactly that question of whether or not they are now kind of essential facilities, like a gas network or a rail network or whatever it is that I'll be talking about today. And I think what you'd say there is ordinarily, if, when you're looking at regulating those types of facilities, you're treating them as if they are public. But obviously here the big distinguishing feature is that they are private companies. And so they might argue that if, for instance, you force them to give access to the data that they have to competitors, so that new startups might enter on the market, and we might actually see a kind of a counterbalance to Facebook or to Google, that in fact you're punishing their innovation. And if you did something like that, you might also have this kind of perverse implication, which is that you would be forcing the duplication of all of that personal information. So not only would Google, for instance, have all of that information, but equally, that would be replicated across the board. So there'd be more information rather than less.